Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we're going to be going over how to use FamilySearch, which is a awesome free family history genealogical tool that you can use to find your ancestors and to contribute to a greater community. FamilySearch quick rundown is a tool that you can use to discover different records. They have a really great genealogical database of different indexed records or digitized records that will help you to dig into the different things that you might want to when you're looking for different family members. So you can find censuses, you can find marriage, birth, death records, all different kinds of records, military records. You can really discover some really awesome stuff about your family here. Now, in years past, have worked at a family history library, and I have volunteered there and given a lot of different trainings when it comes to family history. And I've kind of compiled this video, and a greater, more whole of this YouTube channel is kind of going over the things that I would teach people in that family history library so it can reach a greater audience, so people can understand from a different viewpoint how to use these different softwares to be able to find their histories. So this is something I'm super passionate about. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm assuming that you have already made your FamilySearch account. So if you have not done that, go ahead and go to familysearch.org and create an account. I believe that you'll need like the basic stuff, an email, a password, maybe your birth date. If you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then it will also ask you for your membership record number. If you don't have that handy, don't worry. It might be on a temple recommend or whatnot. I know you can also log in with your LDS tools account. And so a lot of things could actually be uploaded for you already if you are a member. But if not, totally don't worry. Let's go from here, from family tree, let's go down to tree, and then we will talk about our trees. So it will typically not be on this view. I believe the first view it will show you is a fan chart, which is just a different way of seeing your history and your ancestry. The first few things that you'll need to do is you will need to add yourself, you'll need to add your parents, and up to 4 generations back. So I believe that would be your great-grandparents, which would probably be way back here. This way, FamilySearch can understand a little bit more about where records are going to be, what different names records are going to be under, the different dates, again, places. Has a really great database, and it does a lot of the searching for you, which is really awesome. And it will recommend records to you that it strongly believes are your ancestors, and so it will show you that when you have those. Let's go ahead and go into my maternal grandmother's person. So I just clicked on her little yellow icon, and then I'm going to go over here to person and open that up in a new tab. So here she has added her birth date, which is September 2nd of 1927, as well as her death date, and then also those places. Now, research helps will appear here, but it doesn't seem like there are. One thing that comes in really handy is oftentimes when you have come to your first deceased ancestor. For many people, that is probably going to be your great-grandparents, if not your grandparents, and unfortunately, possibly your parents. But getting back to that first deceased ancestor or the closest deceased relative is really going to help you out a lot when you are starting your genealogical research. This is because most people have one profile on FamilySearch. So they have a single person account. So my grandmother should pretty much only have one single person account, and other people can contribute to it, can link sources, can add different death and birth dates. And so if you get back to that first deceased person, you might be able to have a cascading effect of, well, if I add her then and find her profile on FamilySearch, then you should be able to have a cascading effect of her parents are on there and their parents and so on and so forth. And so you'll be able to take that first or closest deceased relative and from there hopefully have a cascading effect and then find where the different holes are within your family tree. Now, I have a lot of really awesome aunts and uncles who help with the family tree. And so as you can see, I'm 7 generations back and I am only missing 1 out of all those 7 generations. Now, I've been working on this for over 10 years at this point, and I know Other family members have been working on this for over 50 plus years on this. And so it's pretty filled out. Yeah, but if you add that closest deceased relative for each of your lines, then you should be able to start to get this cascading effect and see where on your line you come from and start to get some really awesome facts. Now that you have hopefully gotten through and gotten that 4 generations back and have hit your closest deceased relatives, let's go over a little bit of what FamilySearch does and the different ways that you can navigate around this whole view, the whole tree views, and the different things that you can add on here. Now, personally, FamChart is really cool to look at, and it's really great to see where the holes are, but I am not a huge fan of it for when I am doing research. There are a few different views that I personally like, and we can go over that. So let's do landscape. This one is my personal favorite, as you can see. You can see a bunch of different stuff. It also includes my husband's line, and I do a lot of work finding his ancestors, and so I find this super helpful. There are different settings that we can toggle on and toggle off. There are temple ordinances. Now this is for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm still getting used to saying the full name, but we go to the temple and perform different ordinances such as baptism for our deceased ancestors as a proxy, so as like a stand-in for them. And so genealogical work is really important to us. But if you are not a member, feel free to ignore this, or if you want to learn more, then I'd reach out to some missionaries. But here you can see that there are different other symbols that show up here. So we have the blue, that's going to be record hints like I talked about earlier, where you may have other records that are being suggested for you to see, like, hey, the system believes that this is your ancestor because of names, because of dates, places, whatnot. So you can go in and then go look at those. I do a lot of research off of record hints when I am working on building out family trees for myself and for other people. Now I have this one toggled off because I find it a little annoying, but research hints, which is going to be purple. So I'll toggle that on and hopefully I can find one for you. Here we go. So the purple one, this one is going to be like, hey, we noticed that this thing is missing within your family tree. So if I click on that little purple, it says possible missing child. There was a gap of 3 or more years before the mother turned 30 between when they got married and when they turned 40 that there were no children. Now I happen to know that this person only had 1 child with this marriage. And so that's not going to be an issue. And that's why I like to toggle it off, because that never really goes away. Other things definitely go away when the things are resolved, like record hints or when temple ordinances are completed. Then it shows a nice, clean little box. And that just is very satisfying to me. So I'm going to toggle that back off. Now, data problems, those are going to be things like something is not standardized. So what that means is you may find that different ancestors' dates or places aren't quite lining up with what the system wants it to think, of what the search in the background wants it to think. And so what I find is that these are super helpful. So when you go in and let's say someone was born in American Fork, Utah, but you said AF Utah and you only had like the 4 letters of AF, UT, and the system didn't really know what to do with that. And so it would probably have a data problem there. What you would go in and then do is you would go and make sure that it is all standardized, and it will give you a green check mark and say, hey, yep, we understand where you're trying to say that this person lived, died, was born, was married, whichever one is trying to get you to resolve. So the next one is going to be portraits. So oftentimes you'll see that some portraits have been made available. So if they have a picture or a portrait or a drawing of them, then you'll be able to see that in this view. You'll also be able to see children, which is just indicated by this little bigger person, smaller person icon, or oftentimes you'll see it underneath here and you'll see the drop down menu. You'll be able to see their children, typically how many children they had, what their names are, and you'd be able to go in each one of these as a link. And then you'll also be able to see alternate parents and alternate spouses. So maybe if someone was adopted and you showed both their biological and adoptive parents, you'd be able to change those. Or if there was some data issues where there were multiple profiles for one person, I find that a lot. And then also more spouses. So if you had one spouse who passed away and they had a second spouse after the first one had passed away, you'd be able to see that. Now, this is my Granny Hatch. She does have her first husband. And then if we click down on this alternate spouse, you could see that her second husband is there listed as well. She did not have any children, and so that's why I prefer to keep it on, at least for me, the husband that she had the children with and who I eventually came through on the line and was born through. But those are kind of the general icons that you'll see when you're going through and doing family history. These are on all the different views that you have on FamilySearch. So let's go through a few of these views. So we have landscape, we have portrait, which is very similar, just in a vertical direction. And it has a few other options, so you'd be able to open this up. This one looks a lot more, so this is going to show all of the siblings. It looks a lot like how Ancestry is. So if you're familiar with working with Ancestry, you might prefer this view to the others. And we'd also looked at the fan chart there. You have similar settings that can be toggled on and off, or you can show, actually this is pretty cool, you can show birthplace here. So up to 7 generations, you can see where people came from. My grandmother immigrated from the United Kingdom. I have much from Canada and Ireland, as well as some that are unknown, as well as many in the United States. We can see sources here, if they have a lot or very few, if there are any stories. So the more stories you'll be able to see there. Any photos, it's kind of like a heat map. Any research helps, record hints. Now this might take a little bit. You can see there's a lot of purple, one little tiny green, or not green, blue. And then ordinances. So you can see if there are any greens or any can't request or any blues that are in progress. So I'm going to go back just to family lines here. Let's go to descendancy, which personally I find really helpful. One of my favorite things to do off this one is to go down and look at different cousin lines to see who came where. So if I wanted to go to my grandfather here, we could not see very much. But if we go back a couple more generations, we can. Let's go to Samuel Merkley. Now, this will work if you're going back quite a number of generations, and you'd be able to see a little bit more. But it allows you to see their descendants and who came from them in a different view. You'd be able to see, this is my great-grandmother, Hilda Merkley. You'd be able to go down and see her spouse, and then the children she had with him, and then her second spouse. And then if we wanted to go into others, these are different cousins of mine, and so on and so forth. Now you are able to also toggle on the different things, such as research helps, research suggestions. We can invert colors, which would make it like black and white or dark mode. You can see here that Jim is missing some information, and they will show up over here. So it's a little tricky if you have people who are often in FamilySearch who are avidly working. I wanted to get to one where I could show you the different hints, but maybe we'll find that a little bit later. Let's check out the other one, which is going to be First Ancestor. Now, I haven't actually seen this. I am not too familiar, but it looks like it's very similar to Portrait, where you can go down the lines. Yeah, this is something I'm going to have to come look at. But anywho, that one's fairly new. I don't have a lot of information, but I do really like using landscape. And that's the one that I personally prefer to look at and to use. So I am going to toggle off research suggestions, and I'm going to click this home button, which should get me back to just myself. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to attach different records and how to assess different records for if this is your ancestor and what you want to do about it. So when I'm looking for something really quick, you can come over here onto, so this is the home page. It kind of looks like a social media page, but for your ancestors, which is kind of fun, kind of cool. You can see temple and record hints. You can add a to-do list here of what things you want to do or add. You can see your recently viewed, any friends that you're doing, a lot of different things. So I am going to go to my record hints here. So similar icons here. If we wanted to go in, we could request some of these, but I'm just going to go find someone who has a blue record hint to show you how to attach these records. So it looks like it is a marriage record. So there's a couple things that we can do is we could preview over here what the record is, and then you're going to have his person over here. So now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to verify that this is the right person and then attach it to other family members. Now you'll be able to see a lot of this vital information when you are attaching it, but this just gives you a quick overview of what it is. So let's see, it says it's a little bit different because of the spelling. These are records that have been indexed. So what it means is someone has gone through and literally typed through what the record says. And so the spelling might be off, as you can see here, but this is looking, a little bit okay. It has a similar event date. It has a similar place, a similar spouse name. I could see how Burke could come from Buck, especially if we can go in and we can look at the record, and oftentimes they'll have pictures. So let's go ahead and review and attach. I just opened that up in a new tab. So let's see, it's not giving the date or the place. I'm actually I don't really know if this is the right person. So let's go to viewing the image and seeing if we can see that. Yeah. And see, okay, we are going to look for this. You know what? I do think that this is not him. So we can see that it is, I have no idea, Emery B. Cutler to Sarah Burke. And so it happens to be someone who's very, very similar. I'm just going to say that this is not a match because it is not the right names. And I don't want to attach something that's not the right person. And while it is in the same county in New Hampshire, similar dates, there's not enough information here. I'm going to say that the names don't match, and I am going to reject that hint. So let's go back to my whole list and see if we can find another one here and hopefully get one that shows a good record. All right, so now I have found one that's probably likely going to be the right person. Find a grave record, which is actually really helpful and the thing that we're going to probably talk about next. Find a grave records are extremely helpful and they can give you a lot of information. So let's go ahead and do a couple things. I want to open this on Find a Grave as well as review and attach. Now let's go ahead and verify that these are very similar. So the birth is, within a year. Their birth here is showing that it's a year off, but it's within 6 months and it's from the 1800s. It's showing Bradford is her last name, which is her husband's last name, which would make sense if she died when she was married or after she had been married. And you can see here that the death date matches what the burial date was. And you know what? That, while it is different, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Things can change within the system and can get moved around. So I'm going to say that these are the actual same record. So I just hit that plus sign and then I'm going to hit attach there. Now, Find a Grave records, oftentimes they will have pictures of that record and they'll show where they are, the death dates, and the different family members that might be related or buried near them. They might have obituaries attached to them, and I find them to be a very fruitful source of reliable information that is verifiable through a bunch of different sources. So if you see one of these pop up, it's really great. And even if I'm like, hey, I feel like there's someone who's missing a spouse here or someone who's missing parents here, I will go into the record and see if someone has attached a Find a Grave, and oftentimes you can glean some more information from that, which is awesome. So I went in and attached that. We added her death date there. Now it doesn't show a death place. And it doesn't necessarily show a burial date here either. So I'm going to get rid of that burial date. And I'm just going to leave the burial place because it looks like it's pretty accurate. Now, one thing I didn't actually tell you about the profile view of the person is something that is extremely helpful, as you can see the different sources and what they say when you are adding one of these vital pieces of information. So if I went into her name and I saw that her name is Mary Ann Lomas, you'd be able to see the different variations of her name that have been on the different records. Marga Bradford is probably the biggest variation. Bradford is totally fine because that is her married name. Now, FamilySearch prefers if you were to use the maiden name if they are female, and I happen to know her maiden name is Lomas, so I'm going to keep it there. And we do have that middle name as Anne, so the more information the better, and the more the system will provide research helps for you. So you can also see here that we can go through quickly and see what other people have added for birth dates and for places. So you can see it's looking fairly accurate. So I am going to click cancel here. That is something that's really, really helpful. And if you feel like there is some pieces of information missing, so if you saw, hey, she doesn't have a death place here, or if there wasn't a birthplace, you could go in quickly to that edit button, see what all the different recorded death dates and places were, and oftentimes there will be more information right there. So now I want to go in and show you how to search. So FamilySearch has a few different ways that you can search. You can search records, images, family trees, genealogies. Personally, I don't use these a lot because I like their other native search tools a little bit better. I mean, it's the whole same search tool. I just like to navigate to it differently, and it provides better results that way, personally, for me. Now let's go back to an ancestor. Now you can see all of my different pieces of information that are popping up here. Yeah, let's go with that. So I am going to go into Decatus Jones, who's someone I have been researching for a while on my husband's line. I can see here, and this is kind of just a habit of like, hey, I want to go in and just double check all of these birth dates, places, make sure that they match, and the names as well. Now, there are some of these records that I've found on other places that call him different names or have different birth dates that have been indexed incorrectly from looking at the different records. But this is what I wanted to show you here, is that you can search records and it'll pop in all of the different pieces of information that you've already added. So it will add his name and the alternate names that you've added, and I've added quite a number. It will add the birth date, the places, the death place. It will add different residences and possibly parents when you just click on that FamilySearch icon there. And you can go in and you can see the different records that pop up for this person. Now you can see there's 67, almost 68,000 records that pop up for Decatus Jones with all these different pieces of information. Now, a few things to note here are the different icons and what they mean. So this is going to show the indexed record details. So what someone took from the photo of the record and put on and the computer and said, hey, this is what the record says. Oftentimes those can be wrong, but they could also be right. And if you are not sure about a record, it's good to look at that. You can also see if they have a camera icon. There is a photo of this record. We don't always have photos of the records that we have. And you can see if it is attached to a person and who that is attached to, if it has that little tree icon or that little, what is it? It's the landscape icon showing you that, hey, this is attached to someone. Other things to note, you can see the names, you can see the events of what it actually is. So we've got birth and death dates here. We have obituaries, deaths, births, what have you. Oftentimes there will be marriages, different censuses, whatever the record is showing. You can also see any relationships, and this is what I base a lot of me searching for records off of. If I see that it has other names that are familiar, then I know this could possibly be the right person. So if I were to go to Decatus Jones and I could see he has a J.B. Jones as a parent and Miss Lillian Jones, Dave Jones, and Ben Jones as siblings. If we go back to his record and we scroll down to his family members, J.B. Jones, that could be Jonathan Jones, especially as we're getting into the 1700s in North Carolina. You could also look that, who do we have here? We've got Lillian, Dave, Ben. Lillian, I'm not seeing a Lillian, a Dave, or a Ben. So I would say, hey, this is not the right record. The more contemporaneous, the person lived, the easier it's going to be to find these records through search. But I will say that FamilySearch is almost daily working on adding new records and indexing new records and providing that for us to be able to go in and search from. You also have access to look at the individual photos themselves before they have been indexed. You can go in to the different records here and you can search through the catalogs, and if you really want to go deep and dive into those, I'm sure that they'll be indexed at some point, and there are a lot of people who do indexing to help out other people. But if you want to go in and do the get your hands dirty work of looking for that, then you can through catalogs. If we wanted to change a couple of things around here, we could get rid of K. Jones or Cater Jones and just have that. If we wanted to say, hey, he actually immigrated to Canada, and so we could say, hey, we had a place of residence here in Canada, in Ontario, from what year to whatever year. Now give it a couple of years range, just in case things were indexed incorrectly. If it wasn't the right date that's shown on your records, give a little grace there, especially the farther back that you get. But adding in those date ranges are really, really helpful. You can also add family members here. Now, it doesn't automatically add in spouses or fathers or mothers or any siblings. So adding in a father, so I could say Jonathan Jones is his father. And if I were to search for that, it would then also search for people who had similar names with similar parent names. Now, not all of these are going to help, but it can be very helpful. Other things is that you can narrow down the different results. And so if you are specifically looking for a death record for him, you can go into the different death records that they have, do it by death place. So I'm going to say, hey, United States. You can narrow it down by state. It looks like North Carolina is going to be the primary one. You could go down into each county. And then you can also add the death year range, and it shows you how many records are in which range. So if we wanted to look in the 1900s, you'd see there are 401. I would say that I would first start to look in the 1800s if I was narrowing it down, but that's just me because there are less records here. So I'm going to click apply, and then you can look at those different records. Now you can get really, really into the weeds of using search, but those are just some of the key features that you might want to keep your eye out for. That can help you narrow down your search if you are very much wanting to search for particular records. Oftentimes you may have to come back every couple of months to see if there are any new records that you can find for your person. Because when I tell you that they are adding so many new records, they are adding so many. My in-laws did some volunteering with FamilySearch, and they would go through and upload many, many records that had been, like, I'm talking terabytes upon terabytes of images that were ready to be indexed, but the files needed to be uploaded. And so they would help get those uploaded. And there were so many. When I tell you there were so many, there were so many. But it still makes me laugh even years later. All right, so I know that we talked a little bit about find a grave, and the example that we had wasn't the best example. So I have another example. This is another one of my ancestors, and he has a really great find a grave. So what I went over is two sources. It's already been attached thanks to my mom's cousin. So I am going to open this record over on findagrave.com. Now you can search on Find a Grave, and I'll try and link down the tutorial I did on Find a Grave to help you search. But these are super helpful. As you can see here, it shows his gravesite, it shows birth, death places, it shows the burial place, the plot, has a lot of information, and not all places will have this much information. But you can also see different family members. So what I like to do is I like to go through and make sure all of this vital information, as much information as I can get off of Find a Grave and put it into FamilySearch as I can, helps it to recommend more resources to you, more sources, more everything, and helps you build out your family tree just that little bit more. What I'll do is I will go over here to Henry Riley and just go make sure we've got his wife. So I know that all these are going to be added, all these birth and death places. You may want to add these photos over that you find over onto FamilySearch. Now that's something I have not checked, and I'm sure that family members have added these. Oh, maybe not. But you could add those. But what I really like to do is I like to go through and make sure that all of the birth and death places and dates have been added for their kids, for anyone who's attached on this record. So if they have a birth record or a death record there, I would be adding that. But just as a quick look, I saw that all of these were there. These are all links. And so you can go in and see photos, which is really awesome. That's just a little plug for Find a Grave. If you see that, then make sure that you explore that resource as much as you can. You can see that you also have spouses, you've got siblings, parents. Oftentimes you'll see children there. Great resource to use when you can. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go through and add a photo. So now I have an older family photo that I will add to someone who's recently passed away. So let's go to my tree here. And what you want to do is you want to go to at least one person who you know is attached into that photo. So I need to go to my grandmother's sister here, who I miss dearly. She was very close to us growing up. I'm going to go over to June here, and I'm going to go to her person. So to her person profile page. Now, I don't know if FamilySearch actually calls it their profile page, but that's just like in my brain, it reminds me of like a Facebook profile page. And so that's what I call it. I'm going to go over here to memories, and then I can add a memory. You can just do audio story file. I'm going to go to file, and then I am going to go to my device, and I'm going to probably blur out some of these. And let's see if I can find that photo. Yep, so I am uploading that photo. It is going to process here. This might take a little bit. No, I've actually never seen this before because I usually don't do too many uploading of photos anymore. I used to do it a lot, but it's just being screened to make sure that it's not any bad photos, if you know what I mean. So it might take a little bit while. I'm went into the photo, it looks like it processed. I'm going to add a couple tags here. So I'm going to change it to who I know is Aunt June. I'm going to add that there. Great. And then I can also tag someone else. I know that that's her husband, so I am going to tag him there. Yeah, and everyone else is living. It's just my parents and a couple of my siblings. So now that I've added that, you can add other details. It's contributed by me, people who are public. You can see who's seen it or who has saved it or bookmarked it. You can add different pieces of information, any stories, details. You can add the audio here. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm recording this video for you guys, but that is going to be there. That's how you upload a photo. Other pieces of information have been uploaded for her, her obituary, her death record, her birth certificate, different records that can be helpful. If you have any old family documents that are of deceased persons, I recommend actually taking pictures of it and trying to upload it to FamilySearch and tagging the people who are in those photos. It has been really helpful to go through people who have uploaded and glean different pieces of information from different pedigrees people have done or different records that they find or family stories that have been compiled from people, and I've been able to go in and expand different parts of my tree. So that's really awesome. It also digitizes the record into FamilySearch, which will be accessible to a lot of people who knew your ancestor who are also related and who are trying to learn. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about finding family names, which is for more of my Latter-day Saint audience who might be watching this video and who might find this important or helpful to their genealogical search. So again, temples are a part of our faith. We believe that after our ancestors or our family members have passed, they will have the chance to be baptized and to understand Jesus Christ as their Savior. And so this is something that is very important to us. And if you'd like to learn more, I'd encourage you to reach out to any members that you might know in your life or to some missionaries. So one thing that I find super helpful when I'm looking for family names is I am going to go back as far back as I can or to an ancestor who was deceased quite a bit of time ago. And then we can go look for cousins. And that is what I spend the majority of my time on is finding cousins, and I find it really fun. So who I happen to know is my husband's grandfather is a convert. He has a lot of cousins, and most of them were not members. And so I want to go back to a couple of generations and go look for cousin lines. So this is my husband's great grandfather. I just went back and I've gone through. I typically go top to bottom and looking for different names. If you see any blue temples or green temples or yellow temples, that is going to be your sign of like, hey, you will probably find something here along this line. So I can see if I click on that who it is. So it's under the Bradfield name of someone who is blue, which means that it is reserved. So you might find stuff, you might not find stuff, but let's go to William W. Bradfield. And instead of going to his person, I'm going to go to tree, which will shift this whole view to as if it would shift from myself to William Bradfield, who that is. So this is where using descendancy view might be helpful, where you can see all these different green temples. Actually, we can change that, but then I'll change it back. If we were to expand here, you'd probably at some point be able to see the different, oh, here's a blue that just showed up. So going on that line, you'll be able to see records. You might be able to add more cousins or more family members. If you were to expand on this person and go down, but there's some really awesome ways that you can see photos here. Yeah, that's great. But let's go back to landscape. And you can find different temples. So the green temple that has no timer, the green one just means like, hey, you can request these and you can take them, or you can share them with a group, or you can share them with your family members. You can do that. The green with the temple means it's already been shared with the temple. And so you can take it out on like a 120-day basis where you have that reserved. And then you can go to the temple within that 120 days and do that work for them. Now, if you don't do it in that allotted time, then it'll just go back in the temple pile until someone else reserves it, or the temple pile eventually gets to a place where they can do it. So I personally, I use that a lot. And so that can be super helpful. Now, I like to go through and see if there are any things that need to be changed. So they're missing a marriage place. That could be something that you want to do. Now, if we were to go all the way down here, you can see there's a couple of blues. I've probably gone through here fairly recently. I'm trying to quickly see if I can find something so I can show you how to share something with a group. Here we are. All right. So it actually didn't take me that long, and I don't think I will edit that down, but I found a name that I can go ahead and share with a family group. So I am going to request this. And when you request this, make sure that you are responsible for the ordinances for sharing it. You can do this for a whole host of different people, and it gives you examples of who not to as well. And they have to be deceased as well as born later than 120 years ago, or 110 years ago, excuse me. But if they are, they have been deceased for at least 30 days, you are one of the closest living relatives or have permission from the closest living relatives, then you can submit to FamilySearch and to the church and say, hey, I have permission and I would like to take this name to the temple. Yeah, but this is just for someone who's born in 1830. No, it was someone who's born in 1912. So just a little bit older than that. A little bit older. And so we went ahead and requested it. So that temple, fun fact, if you close this and then you open it back up again, it will update it. So if you have gone through and done any of these blue record hints, then if you open and close the little tab again, it'll update and it will clear whatever work you've done. And yeah, but that is how you go ahead and find cousins. I find this to be very fruitful if that is a goal of yours with family history. All right, now that we've actually gone through and we have requested a name, I'm going to show you how to share it with a family group or share it with the temple if you are not going to be doing it. Now, this is a male name, and so Male and females cannot do the work of another gender, and so I cannot do them. My husband could do them, but I also know that my father-in-law will probably do them. So what I am going to do is I went over to that little temple, my reservation's there, and we can see what's available here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to one that I've requested, and who is it that I requested today? I requested John Clarence Bolin. So what I'm going to do is I could either print this out and it would print to whatever computer I have on record on my computer and connected to my computer, but I am going to share it. You can also unreserve it if you don't think that you can make it. So I could either share this with a temple, with a group, or with an individual. With the temple, it'll put it over here into a temple pile, and then it will be completed either if someone takes it out for that 120 days, which is 99% of the time when people have done stuff out of my temple pile, it is because someone took it out, or it will be done when the temple has time to print them and give it to the people who are going to the temple to do proxy work. So I am going to share with the group. I have a couple of different groups I'm a part of, so I'm going to share it with the appropriate group here. And I can choose which ordinances to share with them, so I'm going to share with the group there. And that name should go over to that pile. Now I can go double check that name is in that pile. I'm going to sort over here by the date reserved. Let's do that and change it, and there we go. You can see that it has been shared and can be done. Now, if you have already shared a name and you want to take it out of that pile of the family group, you can do that, but I recommend you can take that out from the group on a 120-day basis. It might sound a little confusing, but after you've shared it, you can then take it out a little bit to do whatever work you are planning on doing, and then the rest of the ordinances will stay in that group. Now, let's show you how to do a temple appointment, which you can do from FamilySearch, but it will take you to the church's website. So I just went over to temple, schedule a temple appointment, and then I can click schedule appointment here. It'll prompt me to log in, but then it'll take you to scheduling an appointment. This is my temple that I typically go to. You can choose whichever one you want to, whichever ordinance that you are ready to do. And then you can say who you're going to be doing that for, if you're going to be having your spouse or additional guests. Anything that is in like this dark blue that has available times. If not, there are no appointments available, it'll have a circle that's kind of like blocked out. But as you can see here, there are also temple closed or date passed is going to just be a full gray. So if I wanted to go in and schedule an appointment, I'd be able to see here where I would be able to do that for tomorrow. And you know what? There aren't too many appointments available at good times, but that is okay. Yeah, that's just how you would do that. And then you'd finalize it after you selected the time, and then you'd get an email with a confirmation. But that is how you schedule an appointment. Now, I've talked a lot about indexing and how important indexing is. If you would like to get involved with indexing, I would recommend you go over here to get involved and indexing. And back when I first started indexing, I had to download a program onto my parents' computer, and I was like, how the heck am I going to be able to do this? And it was really confusing, and it took a lot of space on their computer, and there wasn't a lot of storage. So now you can do it directly on the FamilySearch website. There's no downloading anything. What you do is you would find a project depending on your different language skills. Now, there aren't a lot of English ones. Those get done very quickly. But if you happen to they speak another language or read another language, then I'm sure that those would be greatly appreciated. It shows the different difficulties of the records depending on how old they are, if they're typed or printed, or if they are in cursive or whatnot. You can check the difficulty level there, and you can select the difficult ones. I don't know why I'm on French. I don't speak a lick of French, and I don't know how to read it. Let's say if we were to change it to English, there are some. So there are a couple different steps when it comes to indexing. there is the actual indexing part, which a few people go through and they look at the records and they say, hey, I think it says this and whatnot. And then there is the reviewing process after you've done, I think it's like 2,000 indexing records. You can sign up to be a reviewer. I can't remember what the actual name is, like an arbitrator, something like that, where you go through and you check the record itself and you see out of the few different indexings that have been done, which one's correct. And so, as you can see, there's some that are greatly needed. So this project needs a lot of reviewing. Others, they're pretty neck and neck with how they have been indexed and reviewed. So I'm sure if I had enough indexing under my belt to be a reviewer, there would be like a review button right there so then I could go in and review. But I have not done that yet. I've been very busy with the other family history that I do. You can check out the different projects here as well. I think it's really cool to look at the different projects for the different languages here. And these are available for free for everyone. And I just think that's so wonderful that it is being available so then you can go in and help other people. There used to be this place where you could see the projects. There are other ways to get involved as well. Yeah, if we wanted to, we could go see a quick name review. We could do indexing, full name review, make sure that the entire name was indexed correctly, looking at different place verification, which is essentially just standardizing places just in a quick succession, making sure that that is what it is. Quick name review, it's also very similar. It's just double checking and seeing if the index is correct. Family review, I'm not sure. I have not done that one yet, but I think that is very, very interesting. Anywho, let's see if we go back to indexing. I want to double check. Let's see if we can click find a project. There used to be like a map where you could see all the different indexing projects in all the different countries, and I just thought, wow, that's really cool that I can see that physically, but I don't think they have it on their website anymore, which is a bummer. Now, finally, I know I can't cover everything in this video or even on my YouTube. If you are looking to research a certain section or a certain part of your family tree, or you're not quite sure how to get started in searching for different records in different countries, you can go look at Roots Tech. Let's see if I can find where all the Roots Tech videos are. I'm not quite sure where they are on here. There used to be a button, but I'm sure if I were to go to Roots Tech here and then just go to Roots Tech by FamilySearch, it might icon up here, and then you could also see, you can watch videos, you can browse the library of past talks that have been given at Roots Tech, which is like a conference for family history and how to get started, and not just the computer stuff that I'm showing you here, but how to go in depth and look at in-person records and how to request records and where certain records are, and just kind of go deep into what they mean. This is going to be your place. I've been searching in a lot of Pennsylvania, and I found a lot of information here about how to search in Pennsylvania and different tactics you can use. But that is where I will end you. When you're searching, Google can be your friend, but also search here to see if you're searching in different places around the world. There might be, as you can see, there's a brick wall. You might not be searching the right places or using the right keywords to search in Google or YouTube, so I would check here as well. But with that being said, thank you so much if you have made it this far in the video. Let me know down below if you have any questions about FamilySearch, family history, the different family history tools. I used to work in IT, and so this is kind of my bread and butter of showing people how to use different softwares for their game. But I hope that you found this video helpful. Be sure to give it a like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one.